Hello, welcome to Chapter 3 Podcast, the show for readers of science fiction, fantasy, and romance. This is Season 2, Episode 18. Today, we are going to be talking about reviewing and getting advanced reader copies of books in response to some drama that cropped up on social media recently, so it seemed like an interesting, pertinent topic to talk about. And then we're also, in honor of Pride Month, going to have an extended segment recommending some LGBT books that you could pick up this month if you're looking for that. So, Izzy, let's talk about what happened, because this was wild.
This is great because literally yesterday
I saw it and I was like, oh my god.
And then I had multiple other people send it to me like, hey, and I was like, oh, why? I continue to wonder if Instagram's okay. Like, I feel like every other month or something happens on Instagram. I'm like, is everybody okay over there? Are we good? Like,
yeah, it's weird sometimes.
It's weirdly messy, and everyone's be like, it's fine over here, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
y'all have drama constantly. So a Instagram creator who I'm okay with naming because I feel like what they did is worth naming. Like, I don't think they have any remorse and or care. Romance Rex, who had 3,500 followers at the time of this rant, is now at like just over 4,000.
Yeah.
Unconfirmed if those are real followers or bots, and that's the usual, I feel like, on socials, right? Like, bots follow, it's the whole thing. And she went on Instagram stories and was like, hey bitches, you need to stop complaining about not getting ARCS. You don't deserve ARCS. You aren't working hard enough on your platform to get ARCS. And just ranted forever because people were upset that they didn't get picked for the newest Anna Wong book ARC tour or something. I don't know. I'm on her street team. So I was not even paying attention to this happen. I was like, oh, whatever. I'll get my ARC when it shows up on my Kindle.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is going on? And I had to go dig and find out what book it was, of course. And I just she literally went off and told everyone that they don't work hard enough and that's why they don't get ARCs.
It was so bizarre to me. And she was so angry. That was
very angry because people were upset they didn't get the ARC. Which who hasn't? Who I'm sure you've been sad you didn't get an ARC.
I mean, I sometimes don't get ARCs, and it was so weird to me that she was so angry about it. And it's not like she had this huge platform. I mean, it's fine, but it was the whole thing was very odd to me. And so it kind of sparked this conversation about ARCs and reviewing. And so we thought it might be interesting for some of you. Some of you may be reviewers, some of you aren't. How do ARCs actually work?
Starting and being nervous to start because you think it's this lady gives this impression that it is way harder than it is.
Yeah.
And it's really not. It's really not that difficult to get started.
No. I mean, are you going to get all of the sort of big headline titles when you're starting out? No, probably not. But I think there are a lot of options for getting started with reviewing. And I mean, I've now been doing this for years and have a pretty sizable following on my main YouTube channel and stuff. And I don't get everything that I request.
I mean, I also I started with blogging, not YouTube. So I used to request when I had a very tiny blog that nobody really read, but I still would get ARCs. And even now at my channel size, I don't struggle to get most ARCs.
Yeah.
And it is kind of a roll of the dice on some platforms. I feel like if you're going to get them or not. NetGalley can kind of be a hit and miss no matter your platform size situation. But I think, there's a lot more options out there than NetGalley to get your ARCs also.
Yes. And for those who don't know, ARC stands for Advanced Reader Copy. It's kind of an acronym that we shorten in the reviewing world when you get a book early for review. And I just think, I don't know. I don't understand the anger. I don't understand the anger for this sort of thing. Cause I feel for other people who are disappointed. Cause I get that, I'll have people sometimes I'll have highly anticipated books that will be, sent to me from the publisher because I've been working with them for a long time. And I might get comments on a YouTube video oh, I'm so jealous. I really wish I could have that. And I'll be like, yeah, it's a great book and it'll be out soon. I mean, but I don't get angry at people for being disappointed that they didn't get that book,
No, and I also think it's weird because then she said that she doesn't even do ARCs. So I'm very confused that she even cares. It's why do you care? If you don't do ARCs, why do you care? Why don't you just skip the story? That's what I do. I don't know. I just skip stories that annoy me.
I don't know. So for people who want to get started, or who are just kind of in the early phases of reviewing, what do we recommend? I mean, I do think NetGalley is a good place to start,
Mhm.
and I actually know people who get a lot of things on NetGalley and they only review on Goodreads.
Same. My suggestion is NetGalley. Make sure before you even get on there, though, write reviews for the books you're already reading so you have some
Yep.
practice, and then sign up for NetGalley. And yeah, you don't have to actually have a platform on NetGalley. You can just get ARCS by reviewing just on Goodreads.
Yeah.
Pretty much exclusively. Like tons of people I know just post on their stories and Goodreads. That's it.
Yep.
And maybe an Instagram post, but like they're not, doing anything wild or fancy
No. And I
with
would
it.
recommend if you're starting out on NetGalley, it is so easy to over request things
Mhm,
because you just
mhm,
assume that you won't get stuff. You'll be
mhm.
surprised at how many things you will actually get. So try to hold back a little bit.
Yeah, one of my friends literally just joined NetGalley in the last month and got 17 ARCs approved.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's
So
exactly it. Yeah.
when we say hold back, we mean don't get in my
'Cause
situation where I have a very low rating and a ton of books that I've been approved for. Um,
yeah,
at
way
like
out of it.
69% right now, so it's like
Oh,
not
it's not
terrible.
too bad. Not too bad.
No, I mean, I'm not like in like 14 or something, which
Right.
I
I
have
know people
seen.
who are. Yeah.
Yeah,
At that point, just, like, create a new account with a new email or something.
I almost hit that point where I was like, "Should I do that?" And I was like, "No." I'm at 270 ARCs approved though. So, like, I feel like it
Yeah.
balances out when I've had that many and I'm not, like, completely caught up. But yeah,
Mhm.
like only request, like, 5 books is my advice, like, at your first
That's good
go, and then
advice.
look for some read nows that you think would be good.
Yep.
So you can get those and immediately start reading them and review them so that you start having a history of actually posting reviews on NetGalley.
Right.
Because, keeping your percentage up does help. I don't think it matters if you're at 100% or not necessarily. Like, I don't know how much that influences them picking you or not, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think it matters somewhat, but it depends on the
Yeah.
publisher and it depends on a lot of other factors. But showing a history that you're actually consistently following through, reading the stuff you're
Mhm.
assigned and reviewing it, that I think does a lot.
I think that's the bigger thing. And that's especially per publisher. So each publisher, you want it to look like you know, if you're requesting from a variety, you want to make sure you're reviewing your most recent from them, probably
Yeah.
before you're requesting new ones. I do.
Also, fill out your profile and keep it updated.
Yes.
That I think is
Yes.
really important. So if you have genre preferences, types of books you like to read, you can put that in your profile so people know. If you have a social media presence, I usually update it about once a month with my current numbers and put a
Mhm.
date that it's been updated. So, kind of people know like the reach that you have on different platforms. That can include Goodreads. If you have a number of like followers or friends or whatever on
Mhm.
Goodreads, you can include that information. All of that is helpful and gives the publicists who are looking whether to approve or deny your request what they need
And
to
if you're
know.
comfortable, your identity is in there
Yes.
as well.
Oh, that's I should do that. I don't know that I actually have all of that, but that's a good point.
I don't think I have identities in there right now, but I think that's a good one. I keep mine as
Mhm.
like broken up. I also think it's smart to list your favorite authors in there. So when
Oh,
you're requesting from them and it's a favorite author and they see that, they're more likely probably to approve you because they know you already like this author. So
right.
look, at the end of the day, ARCs are all about promotion and publicity
Yeah.
for these
Yeah.
books. So you want people to read them that enjoy them. And I mean, obviously, not everyone's going to, and that's a given. You're allowed to
Yeah.
leave bad reviews on ARCs. Don't think you can't leave a bad review because it's an ARC.
You
But
totally can.
I think it helps though for them to be like, oh look, you really like this author, and here's their new release, and you requested it, so we're gonna
Right.
approve you.
Yeah, and I guess some thoughts too on if you read a book that you have for review and you don't like it, I would
Mhm.
say be honest, but be specific about what were the things
Mhm.
that did or didn't work for you and who might like the book because every book has an audience and just because a book didn't work for you doesn't mean that someone else might not love it. And so when I'm writing a negative review, most of the time I try really hard to be like, okay, here are the specific things that I didn't like about this book. So if this doesn't
Mhm.
sound like your thing, maybe don't pick it up. But if you like X, Y, and Z, then maybe this would work out for you. And I think
Yeah.
that then those reviews become beneficial for the author and
Mhm.
for the book, and not just sort of like non-specific ranty things that are just pulling down ratings.
Yeah, and if you're doing audiobook arcs on NetGalley at all, make sure you comment on the narration and things like that. So,
Right.
like, make it
Exactly.
specific to
Mhm.
the book type.
So this is all for digital ARC
Mhm.
copies. I know physical ARCs are popular. One thing to note is that there are fewer of them. There are
Yeah.
some, especially certain imprints and certain companies, that are really moving away from it and trying to push the digital more than the physical for kind of financial reasons, especially with paper shortages. So do be aware that some books just don't have them, especially for your kind of mid-list authors, which is who you might be starting out with in reviewing anyway, people who aren't kind of the giant bestsellers.
Mhm.
But there are companies that do more physical arcs. So Tor and Tor.com still do quite a lot of them for their reviewers. They do like sci-fi fantasy titles. I'm trying to think who else. There's also companies that send out finished books where instead of doing ARC copies, they'll just send you an early finished copy. I get a lot of
Mhm.
those from Entangled Publishing for people who are romance readers. I feel like they do a lot of
Um,
that.
I feel like Forever also does a good chunk of that. They do
Yeah,
some physical arcs too. One
they
thing to
do.
look for, and St. Martin's Press does a good chunk of it too. One thing to look for too, as you grow your platform a little bit for reviewing, and you can just be a Goodreads reviewer with this, but you
Yeah.
might want a little bit more of a following. St. Martin's, Forever, and a lot of them have influencer groups basically where you can join and you just get an email. Like I just did my fall releases email with St. Martin's for what I wanted from their upcoming releases. And I got
Mhm.
to pick between digital arc, physical arc, and finished copies and like first, second, and
Oh,
third
cool.
choices, which is nice.
That's nice.
So that's
Yeah.
like something to look out for. Like there's a lot of emails that you can sign up for at any size and
Yep.
start trying.
Yep. And you may not get approved for everything, but you'll get some stuff. Another thing too, again, as you've been growing a little bit, you have a little bit of a following, is you can email publicists about specific
Mhm.
books. And if you're
So this is something
wondering,
I never do. I'd
I
be
don't
so
do it
bad
very
about this.
often. I don't do it that often. I do have more relationships with some publicists now because I have a big enough platform that a lot of publicists reach out to me about stuff,
Yeah.
like pitching books to me. But even if you're a smaller platform, if there's a book coming out from an author you really love, especially if they're not one of the big blockbuster authors, but they're sort of mid to low, like a mid-list author, the publicist is more likely to try to get you what you're asking for because they really want good publicity for those books. So you can email them, be professional in the way you email them, tell them why you want to read the book, if you've read from the author before, or if there's something specifically you're really excited about, put that in the email. Put in links to your platforms and
Mhm.
statistics of your platform size and your followers. And then also make sure you leave your mailing address if you're requesting a physical ARC. You don't want the
Yeah.
publicist to have to email you back because they have a lot on their plates already. So you want to make it as easy as possible for them. So make sure you leave in your initial email a mailing address where they can send you a copy of the book if they're able to do it. You may or may not get something in the mail. You might or may not get a response from the publicist, but it doesn't hurt to try. And sometimes you may just get a surprise package.
Yeah. That is definitely the biggest tip I've heard is like get all the info in that first email because they may not respond to you, but your book will get dropped in the mail most likely. Not
Yeah,
always, but there's a higher
but
chance of the
there's a
book
higher chance.
getting to you
Yeah,
if they don't have to email you
because
back and ask
publicists
for
are working
information.
on several titles at a time,
Mhm.
and they are
Extremely
overworked and
busy.
underpaid and extremely busy.
Yes.
So you want to make their lives as easy as possible.
Yes. The other thing, another platform that I think a lot of people don't use that can be helpful, which is actually how I had a publicist contact me, is on Edelweiss. You can sign up for they also do ERCs on that site. It is mostly geared towards librarians and booksellers, but
Hmm.
book reviewers are on there. And different teams run the NetGalley and the Edelweiss. So Edelweiss is often run by the sales department, I've heard,
Hmm.
and different people are approving over there. But
Interesting.
it can be a spot where you can actually put in stuff to the request box for why you're interested in the book. So I did that recently for the newest Alona Andrews, Ruby Fever, and I
Hmm.
mentioned my read along. And then a couple days later, I got an email from a publicist mentioning the read along, and I was like, I think somebody saw my request on Edelweiss and gave you my info because I don't really know where else you would have gotten this. Like, I doubt they're searching YouTube for announcements. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows? There's a 50-50 shot of where it came from. They found it or they got pushed, like, sent my info. And then they reached out to me to give us physical ARCs for all of us that are in the read along, which is really cool. I was like, oh my gosh, like that's, you know, so that's somewhere else. Like, and that can be a good spot where sometimes you can build a relationship, I feel like, with them, and you can leave reviews there for books that have already come out that you liked from an author. It can just be somewhere else that you're just kind of like dropping some of your reviews in. And the publisher may see it and then send you stuff. Like, I get emails on there from Macmillan a lot. To join like webinar things and stuff.
Interesting. Huh.
Edelweiss is a little messy though to navigate. I'm not going to deny
that.
It's
pretty hard. I haven't used it much because I find it confusing.
I can help you later.
Okay.
So I just recommend also, if you get it, like, play around with it and try your best to figure it out. I have mine, so it just shows me all the romance digital copies and like fantasy and YA romance, because those are mostly what I read. That's smart. Yeah, it's just it's another spot that I feel like people forget about.
One other thing too, and this is if you have a little bit of a platform size, but if you have an online platform with over 1,000 followers, you can sign up for the influencer program with Libro FM. So if you are an audiobook listener, it's a pretty cool program where you have to have over 1,000 followers on a platform, but you can sign up, and every month they will have a list of like 5 or 6 audiobooks that you can download for free in exchange for mentioning their company. So that's really great. And
they may have upped the requirement also.
Have
over 1,000 now. I think so.
Okay, maybe we should.
But I'm not positive. I've seen like a couple like inklings on TikTok of people saying that they couldn't get into it and they had around 1,000. So TikTok may have a higher requirement. I don't know.
Oh, maybe. Let's see. Libro.
They don't spell it out. Like, it's kind of a case by case basis if you get approved, I feel like, after 1,000 possibly. So I just want to forewarn that. But
yeah, no, that's fair, because you do have to be approved for it. And so, but you can apply if you have over 1,000.
Yes.
So you may or may not get approved, but it is pretty cool. Some months, this month is great. Have you looked at their influencer stuff?
I only got one this month because I was going to bug you later to ask you what else I should get. This is what I do, because like predominantly as a romance reader, I'm always like, I don't know if I should get any of these other ones. I don't know anything about these. So then I go ask my friends. I'm like, what one did y'all get? In some months, I just get them all because I can't decide, and it is what it is.
I mean, some months I only get like 1 or 2 because it's all like lit fic stuff that I'm never gonna read.
Yeah,
but some months I've gotten some really good things. Let me see, what did I get this month?
I've gotten a ton of thrillers this way, which has been great.
Okay, so I can tell you,
Libro FM.
I do too. I think they're great. Okay, I can tell you, this month I got more than usual. I got 5 this month, which is like way more than usual. Usually I get 2 or 3 of the options. This month they had extra, and they had a lot of good ones for Pride Month too. One was also my book of the month club pick, Woman of Light by Kali Fajardo Anstine. That it looks, what's interesting about it is the author is Indigenous Chicano, and it's got magical realism elements to it. So it's more literary, sort of like family saga, but set in the American West, spanning 5 generations of an Indigenous Chicano family.
Okay, well, I just thought
yeah, I just thought that sounded really interesting.
I always love a magical realism, so.
Yeah. Then I also picked up The Woman in the Library by Sulari Gentile. Mara had an early copy of it and loved it. Like, she said it was really, it's like a really good.
I was looking at that one because I was like, that, if I don't read it, so my mom uses my Libro account, of course, and I'm always like, check the ARCs. Is there anything you want?
I love it.
And yeah, that's one of those ones that I was looking at. I was like, the cover is so pretty. And it sounded interesting.
Yeah. She said it was a really good murder mystery with like an interesting framing device. So I'm hopeful. August Kitco and the Mechas from Space by Alex White is actually, I mean, it does have like sci-fi action stuff, but it's also an LGBT romance.
Okay, perfect.
So reviews are like, you'd be surprised like how much. So it's also got like that kind of romance. And then I had asked you about Twisted Love because I'd heard about it. I was like, I don't know if this is going to be for me or not, but I'm going to try it out because it's like I don't know. We'll see.
I'm still he's kind of very alpha. So I feel like there's parts of it you're going to really, really like. And then there's parts you're going to be like, oh, I hate this because you're not super into alphas. But
Right.
I feel like if you're going to try it, this is the way to do it.
Why not? I mean, like, it's fine. Yeah. And then the one I'm listening to right now and I'm obsessed is The Secret Life of Albert Entwistle by McCade.
I was looking at this one.
It's so cute. It's like, okay. It's like TJ Klune type gay middle-aged man, but like British and not fantasy.
Okay.
It's like so charming. This like 50-something-year-old closeted gay man who works as a postman. He's about to turn 65 and he's told that he's being forced into retirement and like his whole life is his job and his cat. And now he maybe will go and try and track down the boy who was his one love as a teenager. Oh. It's so cute.
Oh, no. It's like so cute. Okay. I just got all the ones we just talked about. Okay. Yeah, LibreFM has been an amazing source for ARCS for me, especially as like a heavy audio reader.
Yeah.
And because the McCade audios are iffy at times.
Yeah, they're hard. Like I can deal with them, but like some people can't. I think they like have an echo or something like where they double it. So I can only listen up to 2.5 times speed and then it starts skipping words, or 2 times speed. And then it starts skipping words.
With my ADHD sometimes struggle with it because I feel like it gives me and my migraine issue, like I feel like it will trigger a migraine, some of them, and I'm like, no. Yeah. So be careful with the audio ARCs on NetGalley.
It's really unfortunate. I don't know why they do that because the final audiobooks don't sound like that. It's like, are they just trying to keep people from stealing it or something? Is that like, I don't know. It's weird.
So. But that's part. I have like 5 audiobooks I've yet to review. I need to like get them from the library and then go back and review them because I was like, I'm never getting audio ARCs from NetGalley.
That's unfortunate. Well, I just finished one and I really liked it. I had a Bet on It by
I need to read that.
Jodie Slaughter. It's so good.
I love Jodie.
It was so good. I mean, it's a lot of like heavy mental health stuff. It was really good. Yeah.
Did you read White Whiskey Bargain by her?
I've never read from her before. It was my first.
You would like White Whiskey Bargain. We've got a cinnamon hero with a very dominant female.
Okay. I do like that.
You do? I know. That's what I was like.
Shocker.
By her. I know.
Yeah.
The complete opposite of Twisted Love. Or whatever that one is. Twisted Love, I think. Yeah. Interesting.
Oh man. See, we're already getting a few like queer recs in here. I
know, it's perfect. One other thing I will recommend if you are a romance reader or an indie reader, I guess in general, if you follow your authors that you love, they usually will post when they have ARC teams or ARCs going out, whether it's through them, a PR agency. So like for romance, I know there's Gray's PR and there's Valentine PR. They both do a lot of romance. You can sign up for their emails and sign up for a lot of books. I skim through, see if there's anything I'm interested in. I'm not signing up like every week or day that they send an email. I don't think they come every day, but you know what I mean? Like I'm not signing up every email for books, but I think that's a really good way to start building up your reviews also by getting some of those ARCs and following your authors.
Or, like if you love an indie author and you tag them in a positive review only, don't tag in negative reviews, but
that was the other Instagram thing this week that made me go, are y'all okay over there?
I don't
keep having this conversation.
I'm like, why is this? Yeah. Don't tag authors in negative reviews. But like especially for indie authors, and also actually a lot of YA authors, even TradPub, like traditionally published YA authors have street teams as well, where if you join it and you help them promote their book, you get access to early copies and sometimes some other perks too. Like I know a lot of authors have been doing that. Dana Melly, Alexa Dunn have started street teams recently. Susan Dennard does this. Like a lot of queer contemporary YA authors have done it. So if you follow on social media, especially on Twitter, is a lot of times where they'll post this stuff. If you follow authors you really love, you may be able to get in on something like that.
And I would say like 2-ish months before you know a book's coming out, you should be seeing like for indie a month, well, 1-ish month maybe even. You'll start seeing
for indie
for indie.
Whereas for TradPub, it's going to be several months before. Like they start assembling street teams like several months before they release.
They do,
usually.
yeah. But for indie, you're not going to necessarily see an arc. Sometimes you're going to get an arc on a tight turnaround. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
But a lot of indie authors are super chill and don't expect you to be done with it by the time it pubs or any of that either. Like they're, you can commit to different times to post and all that, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
So highly, highly recommend finding some indie authors you love to also get that practice in.
Yes.
And indie authors I see all the time are so excited to send to people who have never done ARCs or been on ARC teams, which I think is really cute. Like I watched some author on TikTok recently. She sent like of 174 people she had on her sending ARCs to, like 100 had never done ARCs before.
Wow.
And I was like, that's amazing. And that's something they can do, right, to help you get practice in.
Yep.
So
I think there's a lot of options out there. And if you're disappointed that you didn't get something, it's okay to be disappointed, but there will be more. And I guess the good thing to keep in context too is that, like, if you don't get an arc you're anticipating, the book will be available to purchase eventually.
Exactly.
Like, it's not like you can never read it. So yeah, that's always an option.
Yeah. And listen, sometimes getting it early is torture because then you read it and you have to wait for the second book even longer.
True.
If it's a series. And
this is why, even though I sometimes get things really early, I rarely read them more than a month or two before publication anime because of that. Because also there's no one to talk to about it. So if you end up loving it and no one else has read it, that's hard. Yeah,
that is like one of the worst parts, and that's also why I'm behind on ARCs, because then I'm like, but if I'm done, then I have to wait even longer for the next one when it's certain series.
Exactly.
So it's a pain.
Yeah. So hopefully this was helpful to anybody who's just been curious about the look behind the scenes or is interested in getting into reviewing. But we're also going to recommend some queer books if you're looking to pick something up for Pride Month. And Izzy, I think you said you had a couple requests for this on Instagram that we could maybe respond to.
Yeah, so I will post up another one of these stories on Instagram here before or during the readathon, probably, to see if people have more questions too. So be on the lookout for that.
Oh, yeah. So actually, this is a really good point. I will put a link in the video description or in the show notes where you can check out the announcement for the Queer Romance Readathon, which is happening. We're kind of co-hosting with some other great people. It's happening over on YouTube. And so if you're looking for a way to get in some queer romance, it's like a bingo board style for a week. And yeah, so check that out if you're interested. And so we've been compiling a lot of recommendations for that. I just wanted to give that context. Since
I realized, I was like, wait, there's no context to this. So because of that, the board's pretty big, but you can count books multiple times. So I put up on my stories, my announcement will be up by the time this video's up. I wanted to make sure I was hitting some recs that people were struggling with for the prompts. So one of the ones I got was erotica. They wanted an erotica rec. Do you have any queer eroticas to rec or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got a couple.
I don't know. I was like, do you have a couple or not? I don't know.
You know what? I do read some of them. I just don't review them usually.
Okay. Well, that's why I wasn't sure. I was like, I mean, you talk about it often, but
I don't like. I do actually like read some of them. I just don't review them very often. But yeah, I've got.
Do you want to go first? Then I've got my default that also hits a couple other squares.
Yeah. So one that is like definitely an erotic romance is Neighborly by Katrina Jackson, which is like very steamy. It hits for polyamorous and for, I think, lesbian author, I want to say. Am I right about that? But it's
for Black author.
Yeah, it's a Black author and a sapphic romance, like bisexual characters. And basically the premise of it is it follows two women who are in relationships with men, and they move in to apartments next to each other and end up developing a sexual relationship that is polyamorous, and everybody knows everything is completely consensual. It's not cheating or anything, and it is very steamy.
It's so good. Another one that I have that is also by Katrina Jackson, but by her other pen name, which is Brandy Bush, called The Roommate. This is slightly less on the HEA side. It's definitely more erotica than erotic romance, if that makes sense. But I still feel like it counts. This follows a girl who ends up hooking up with her roommate's parents over the holiday break. It is Super hot, super hot. And it I would say it counts as LGBT because, again, we got polyamory happening. We also have, two women hooking up. So we've got sapphic happening. It's queer. You can make it count for a lot of categories. And it is so hot. Like, it should not be as hot as it is. And somehow it is. I don't know. It just, highly recommend.
Okay.
She knocks it out of the park on that one.
I guess the other one that would also like hit some different things. Katee, so in general, Katee Robert has a lot of erotic romance, and often it is queer in some way. So so check out her stuff. But one that's on the shorter side, that's a little more like kind of slightly taboo, I guess, but has polyamory, is Gifting Me to His Best Friend, which
that's a good one.
Yeah. So it's a married couple and the husband's best friend, and they spend Christmas together. And, like it starts out gifting her to him for the holidays, but also the two guys maybe also have feelings for each other. This one is an HEA. I would call it polyamorous. Yeah.
You're definitely going to hit the bullet points with that one.
Yep.
I agree. I feel like Katee and her Wicked Villains series, a lot of them could also fit into the erotic romance category. I feel like
honestly, I think most of her books are I would consider like erotic romance.
I mean, I don't disagree with you to an extent. Like not the trad ones. Not her traditional.
Well, and I mean, there's still more on the erotic side. Like, and I guess that's the thing is like the prompt isn't erotica, which I think is different from erotic romance. Like you could read erotica, but like erotic romance is just like there's more sex than average.
No, I don't disagree. I mean, it's closer. I just feel like her self-help stuff is very much on this side of this.
Yes,
and like the other stuff is over here. It's just a little further in on the line,
Yeah.
Okay, the other request I got was Men Loving Men, or MM, by a gay author, written by a man. My default here, one of my favorites, is Jack Harbin. He has written some really cute books. I just read Crimes of Passion, which is his Audible original.
I did too.
It's very short. Big content note that it is about two rival podcast hosts that talk about true crime. So you are going to hear true crime things in this podcast.
Yes.
There's cannibalism, there's murder, there's some gore, light gore, we'll call it.
And it's not as steamy as his stuff usually is either.
No, I think this one is it was like a 3.5 for me. It wasn't bad. It was good compared to most of the Audible original.
Yeah. I gave it a 4.
Bad. They're okay. I feel like a lot of them. This one was really good. Enemies to Lovers, Two Men Falling in Love, also good time. He also has the Meet Cute Club,
Meet Cute Book Club, I think. Am I right?
I'm looking it up.
Oh my gosh, I can't remember. Or is it just Meet Cute Club? I know I have it next to
Meet Cute Club. See, I always out of it.
Okay, but there is a book club, so it's confusing.
Yeah, and that is another one where we're centering. This also, his books would count for a Black author, so you have that. But Meet Cute Club is about a book club ran by a man who goes to a bookstore and orders the copies for the book club, and a bookstore employee who was just kind of feisty. Another semi-enemies. They're not quite enemies the same way they are in Crimes of Passion to Lovers situation, though, I feel like.
Yeah. Another good option for this, if you want a rom-com, is Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. That would also fit that prompt, and it's hilarious. It's kind of a, grumpy sunshine, opposites attract, kind of hot mess and really buttoned up guy, and they're British, and it's very fun. And the sequel, Husband Material, is coming out soon too. So that I think is really good, and it's not real steamy. So if you don't want high levels of steam in your romance, I think that's a good option.
Cole McCade is another option.
Mm-hmm.
They write a ton of gay romances.
Yeah, and they're bisexual, but I think you can still count it for that.
I feel like it counts because they're writing,
from that perspective. Yeah.
So it works. Definitely. And I think, the big thing here is to make sure you're focusing queer voices writing MM romances, not cis straight white ladies.
I think you could also do something like Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas, where it's that's really good. It's like MM with one character who's a trans boy, and the author is trans as well. and that's would fit for YA, and it's got kind of a paranormal mystery element to it as well. That's really good.
Wouldn't Mason Deaver's I Wish You All the Best also count? Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
That was a really cute contemporary romance-y book, kind of romance.
Yeah.
I feel like the ending it's YA, so I feel like it's a happy for now romance, right?
I haven't actually read that one, but I've heard good things about it. Anything by Phil Stamper, he's got some contemporary YA romances. Another YA one that I read this year that was really cute was Nate Plus One by Kevin Van Wy. Really cute best friends to lovers romance. Some of it takes place in South Africa, and that's got more like diverse representation just in general. So I feel like there's a lot of YA gay romances written by gay authors. It's harder to find in adult romance, but they're out there.
You just have to look.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you really got to dig in.
Right. TJ Klune has some. One of his books is more controversial, but he has some other books as well that I do
Wolf
think are good.
Song by TJ Klune would definitely fit. It is long though for like if you use it for the readathon. But it will rip your heart out into shreds, and you will cry. I cried, and I don't cry.
Yeah, and what was his latest one that just came out that I read that was good also?
Under the Whispering Door?
Yes, Under the Whispering Door is also really good. It's like middle-aged gay men finding love, and it has almost like a Ebenezer Scrooge type character who dies and then has to realize that, you know, he maybe made some bad choices and falls in love in the afterlife. It deals with some heavier topics, so it deals with like death and suicide and grief, but it also has this really great romance at the center of it. So actually the one that I mentioned earlier that I'm reading right now from Libra FM that's like just coming out, The Secret Life of Albert Entwistle by McCade, the like British older man that I mentioned. That one is also by a gay author, and it's really cute.
The next one is one that I feel like you're gonna have more recs for than I do, but sci-fi or fantasy, that prompt.
Yes.
I was like, oh crap.
I mean, I have so many. I did a whole live stream of prompts.
I know. I was going to say, you did a whole live stream, which I'm going to direct this person to as well. But I was like, what?
Tasha Suri wrote The Jasmine Throne, which is sapphic political fantasy inspired by...
Oh, not this one. I love her writing.
Her writing in general is amazing, but that one specifically is sapphic with like political fantasy inspired by the history and mythology of India, which is really cool. And she is a lesbian South Asian woman. Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell is a really cute sci-fi. It is a political arranged marriage between two men who are kind of opposites, and it also has a mystery element to it. Absolutely loved that last year. Oh gosh, there's so many.
I've got one.
Okay.
I do have one. I just found it. I have one that I do feel like for sure. Well, I guess I have a YA one. Yeah. In the Vanisher's Palace by, I'm going to butcher her name, and I'm sorry. I'm not doing it on purpose. Every time I have to say her name, I'm like, oh no. It's Aliette de Bodard.
Yeah. I think that's
right. I think that's right.
Aliette de Bodard.
Yeah, I think so. I'm terrible with French names. This is a Beauty and the Beast inspired fantasy that is very set in Vietnam, I think, like Vietnamese mythology, sort of. This was a really good novella. It's 140 some pages. Great audiobook. And we follow a girl who has to journey through a world and ends up like in love with a dragon, basically. I don't want to give it because it's so short. Like it's one of those ones, you know what I mean? Yeah. But it was really good, really beautifully written. I was one of those stories where I was like, oh wow. Like, and that's what I look for in my fantasies. I think it might be a Tor.com novella. I wouldn't be surprised because I feel like Tor is where I like live.
They have a lot of queer sci-fi fantasy. Like there's so much. Like just check them out because they have there's so many things
They're very good at it. But yeah, it's so good. This is like it's that mixed sci-fi fantasy situation. Highly recommend it.
Yeah.
I was very surprised by it.
One of my favorites, I wouldn't necessarily call it a romance, although there is romance in it, is Siren Queen by Niveau, which came out this year, and I loved it. Beautifully written. And it does have she has a couple of sapphic love interests with like full-on sex scenes in it. So but it's it's really interesting. It's set in an alternate version of the golden age of Hollywood, following a Chinese American girl who wants to be on screen. And it basically literalizes the predatory practices of Hollywood studios at the time, particularly to like women and marginalized women, but using kind of like fae mythology. So there's like magic and bargains and like monsters and stuff. And it's really
cool.
Interesting. Yeah, I loved
All right,
that.
I'm gonna have to check that one out. I've been curious about that one, but I was like, I needed to wait and see how many people I knew read it and what they thought.
I mean, I really loved it a lot. It's not for like not every. I don't think it's going to be everyone's cup of tea because it's like, but you might like. I think you would like it. I feel like
probably. I mean, it sounds like something I would like, so I'm gonna try it. I do have a general author rec. I haven't read from them. They're on my TBR for the readathon. But Skye Kilaen has some sci-fi, fantasy, sapphic romances. So
cool. I'm trying to think like other. Reign of the Fallen by Sarah Glenn Marsh is a really underappreciated YA fantasy with necromancy and a bisexual heroine. And it's really good. It's interesting too because in book 1, the love of her life, who was a guy, has died and she's grieving that loss, but also falling for his sister.
Ooh, okay. I've heard about this one.
It's really good. Really, really good. And then she actually also has a new book that just came out, The Girls Are Never Gone, which is also a sapphic romance plus haunted house like ghost story. And it's YA, and the main character also has disability representation because the main character has type 1 diabetes, and that's like a significant part of the story, and it is own voices for that. The author also has type 1 diabetes.
That's cool.
It's really good.
Okay, the last request I had was asexual rep.
Oh, yes.
Which I also only have like one for. I have one general author to recommend. This is one of the problems that I'm really excited we have, because I was like, oh yeah, this is one that I don't have enough for.
Yeah.
Personally. And you probably the same author is my guess, but you might have some other ones.
I have a few. So
okay. Mine is Claire Kahn. All of her books have asexual rep in them. Yes. I really loved Let's Talk About Love. I thought that was a really great YA book. She just had the Romantic Agenda drop, which is her first adult romance. Okay. I think I'm 99% sure this one is adult. And I really am excited to hopefully dive into that during the readathon. But I really liked her writing. I've heard good things from people who are asexual for liking it, like liking the rep in it.
Yeah. She's good.
So yeah.
A.M. Strickland is a great YA author who writes darker sci-fi fantasy. They are non-binary and ace, but pan-romantic. And so their books are really interesting. Their first one, Beyond the Black Door, has a asexual biromantic lead. And I would call it a dark romance, but without the like sex piece of it. This one's interesting too because it has dream magic. And it's really, it doesn't have an HEA, so it's not that kind of genre romance, but it's I don't want to say too much more about it. You can make it work
for the readathon.
You can make it work for the readathon. And then their latest book, which the title is escaping me at the moment, but it has polyamory in it and like bone magic and death magic stuff, and it's got more like fast paced. Both of them are pretty fast paced in terms of plot and have like political things and intrigue going on. So A.M. Strickland is a great author if you're looking for some of that. Also, one that I think not everybody realizes that was pretty popular last year, but The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood has demisexual representation that is also own voices.
See, I feel like I have more demi now than I do ace somehow. I don't know how. I don't know how I got here. I was like trying to think. I'm like, I have nothing. Like, why do I have like almost none for asexual rep?
It is hard. Like there is more. There's more demi. Like also Talia Hibbert, a guy like that, or a guy like him, or something like that.
Yeah, one of
her Ravenswood books has a demisexual hero. So, I've seen some of that kind of representation. But yeah, there's not as much as you might want to see. But it is out there.
I wish there was more. That's all. We all do, though.
Oh, one thing that I've seen people recommend as an option is Network Effect by Martha Wells. It is the novel in the Murderbot Diaries, and there is a platonic romance.
I haven't gotten to that one yet. That's interesting. Yeah, those were the four. Okay. I think I got it right.
Well, I think we got in a lot of recommendations there. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful. All these books will be linked in the show notes or in the video description if you're watching us on YouTube. And we're going to move into On My Radar, where we'll talk about recent or upcoming book releases in sci-fi, fantasy, and romance that we're excited about. Books for today's episode will be released between June 14th and about June 27th, 2022. But first, if you enjoy the podcast, we would appreciate if you take a moment to rate and review us so we can continue to reach more listeners. And if you're interested in getting early access to episodes as well as exclusive bonus content with every episode, which is always fun, consider supporting us on Patreon. Huge thanks to all of our supporting patrons, including our world-expanding patrons, Trina, Sarah, and newly Stephanie. You all make what we do possible. Thank you so much for your support. So I have 3 books to talk about today.
I also have 3 books. One of mine does come out June 7th, so it's not in the window.
That's okay.
I'm going to roll
That's okay.
with it.
Why don't you start with that one?
All right, so we have Wicked Beauty by Katee Robert coming out June 7th. This is the 3rd book in the Dark Olympus series. This is the polyamorous one, and it has Helen, Achilles, and I cannot say his name. Patroclus? What is
it? Patroclus?
Okay. It has Helen, Achilles, and anyways, you know what? We're not even gonna try. It's got Helen, Achilles, and the P name dude. Okay, that's all I got for you. We're not. It's just gonna be outtake after outtake, so we're just gonna roll with it. I've read the beginning of this because I got an arc of it, and I was like, I don't want to be done too soon because I want to be like in the zeitgeist of talking about it with people. And I already love how it's opening because she's just like gives no crap, gives no shits. She's like, I'm gonna do this thing so that she can get out from like some of the power dynamics in Olympus. And I was like, oh, I love it. I'm very excited to see where this goes. So yeah, awesome. I'm just, I love Katee Robert also. So like, it's just a given that I'm like hyped for this book.
Yeah, that'll be good. June 14th, we're having Boys, Beasts, and Men by Sam J. Miller. It is a short story collection, sci-fi, fantasy, dark, and super gay. And it's really good. It is definitely hard hitting. Check content warnings if you need them because it deals with some pretty rough topics at times. But I just love Sam J. Miller's writing so much, and I think it is an excellent short story collection. I had an early copy of this one, and yeah, it's coming out from a small press, but I would definitely recommend it.
I mean, we love a small press. Next, we have on June 21st, Fake It Till You Bake It by Jamie Wesley. Another one I have an arc of that I will be reading very, very soon.
It's very
I didn't want to read, I'm so excited. So since you've already read it, I feel like you'll correct me if I'm wrong. Basically, the plot is a reality star declines a proposal live on TV and becomes America's like #1 enemy. And this football player and like his 2, I think it's 3 of them total, right? That run the bakery.
Yeah,
they run this cupcake bakery, I guess, on the side of their football career. I didn't know if they were retired or not. Okay,
no,
that's a lot of work, but okay. I was just like, that's a lot to do, be a football player and run a bakery. But they end up fake dating.
Yes,
kind of to help mend both of their
to help her image and help the cupcake bakery kind of get more promotion. And the other thing that's interesting is she's the granddaughter of the team owner.
Oh, that makes it even better. I love that being thrown in. Okay. I'm very excited for this book. Like I've been like minimally looking at anything about it because I was like, I just want to read this and be like thrilled because it just sounds perfect.
Yeah. Also coming out June 14th is January 15th by Rachel Swirsky. It is a novella from Tor.com that I really liked. It's so interesting. The concept is, what if the United States in the near future had a universal basic income payment that everybody, regardless of like class or wealth or whatever, got every year? And it follows 4 different perspectives it takes place all on one day on January 15th, which is the day that they get this payment. And it follows 4 different perspectives and kind of explores like, what would this look like for different people? So one of them is a woman who is on the run with her children from her abusive ex-wife, and the payment is what let her finally leave the marriage. One of them follows some elite teenagers who basically like waste their money. They're kind of like early college age, but older teens. One perspective follows a young Black woman who's a journalist and the guardian for her teen sister, who's like going around and interviewing people on this day about the payment. And then the last perspective is a pregnant teen girl who is in a polygamist cult. So it's really interesting.
I did not expect that last one at all.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, I'm like, okay, this is interesting. What?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a really interesting novella. I liked it a lot. So I think that's one to check out.
Interesting. I might have to look at that one because now I'm like, wait, And then the last one on my list is American Royalty by Tracy Livesay. For some reason, I thought for a moment the date had moved and it was in July now. And I was like, no, it's still June. This is a somewhat Meghan Markle, Harry-inspired romance. It just sounds like a good time. Tracy is one of my favorite authors to read when it comes to like kind of silly books almost. Like I feel like even her Girls Trip series always had funny moments. So I feel like this is going to be very funny. Yeah. This follows rapper Duchess and the prince, who is very reclusive and a professor. And he accidentally books her for the like Queen's Jubilee sort of situation, I feel like.
Kind of.
Not quite, but like it's like one of those. Yeah, I figured you've read it already, but it's one of those. Like he books her for a thing they're doing, and it doesn't know who she is, and is like, "Oh shit, I messed up," and then they fall in love. So
this seems to be pretty controversial. Cover. It is a beautiful cover. I liked it, but like people seem so split on it, which I find interesting. I think because it's like pretty steamy, and the physical piece of their relationship is a big part of it, and I think some people wanted, like, I don't know, I think not everybody likes that, and also he's kind of a jerk at the beginning.
Okay. I mean, I'm here for it.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked it, but
I am seeing mixed on my friends list, so it's very interesting.
It's pretty interesting, but I liked it.
Most of my friends are in your camp though, with the 4 and up. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, it'll be interesting when it comes out. I do think a lot of people who don't read as much romance seem not to be liking it.
So. That's what I was just noticing as I started scrolling. I was like, okay, you're not
no,
that's okay.
It's like
not everything.
I think because it's Meghan and Harry, it's getting a wider reach with the marketing. So I think it's reaching people who don't usually read a ton of romance. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So my last one is coming out June 21st. This is The Final Strife by Sarah El-Arifi, and it looks really good. It is the first book of a visionary LGBT, African, and Arabian-inspired fantasy trilogy about 3 women who band together against a cruel empire that divides people by blood. This is like a long, epic fantasy novel that looks great. So I actually need to order a copy of this because it's coming out soon, but I'm interested.
That also sounds interesting.
Yeah. So again, all of these will be listed. If you're looking for any of them, there will be purchase links. This has been Chapter 3 Podcast. We're your hosts, Bethany and Izzy, and you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Chapter 3 Podcast, and you can find us on YouTube at our individual pages, which will all be linked below. The next episode will be available in 2 weeks. I will be back with Leanna to talk about The Heroes by Joe Abercrombie, continuing with our First Law read-along if you're following along with us. And this episode's bonus content will be available to patrons in the next few days. Thanks for listening.